The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everybody, and welcome to our webinar here this evening with Dig Deep Coaching and our nutritionist Rob Van Der Werf. So yeah, we're doing the ins and outs of sport nutrition. We're very lucky to have somebody of Rob's caliber here this evening. Rob is works with us, but he also is full-time with the Giant Shimano Pro Tour team, working with guys like Marcel Kittel, who I think won the first pro race of the year there on Sunday in Australia. And so obviously has a lot of experience working with elite athletes, professional athletes, and also athletes of all standards. And you know, a lot of the stuff we're going to be talking about this evening is applicable to, you know, the tips, what we're learning from the top riders in the world, and how we can apply that to really the everyday athlete like ourselves. So yeah, Rob's an acclaimed cyclist himself. He's the Dutch marathon mountain bike champion, so so he certainly knows what he's talking about. And what we're going to do, we're going to go through numerous slides that Rob has set out, and after that that's going to last maybe 30-40 minutes, and then we're going to go to, at the end, we're going to have a part that you're going to be able to ask questions. We'll do our best to get through as many questions as possible. So I'll read them out and Rob will obviously answer it. So hopefully we'll get through as much as possible. So and if there is some interference with the sound, sometimes there can be some interruption. Don't worry about it. It sometimes comes and goes. It's each person's computer is different, to be honest. So so there we go. So I'd like to say thank you very much for Rob coming. Do you want to say hello, Rob?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the ins and the outs of sport nutrition.
Okay.
I want to explain you to the first steps about nutrition and the basic principles of the sport nutrition. And I think the most important thing is to find out what are the good things of your normal nutrition, so the basics of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when we go to the first slide,
yep,
it's yeah, you can see we have important the basic nutrition, and you can see what's important in sport nutrition, and they are two different kind of things. And next slide.
Oh, hold on. I think we have showing screen. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's like yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think is our screen showing now?
Yeah.
Was yeah. Was there?
I can see the screen.
Okay. Okay. Sorry for people if we couldn't see our screen before that. I think there was just a glitch there. Okay. So.
Perfect. Now what you can see on the left side is the basic nutrition. So what we daily do in the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and what we are going to eat between all the parts of eating. And the other side, on the right side, is what you do on the bike. On the bike, it's important to have something to eat, and especially also something to drink. But I will come later on it. And when we go to the next slide, you can see a pyramid in the next slide.
Yep.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, it's a pyramid, and that's are the basic principles where I normally work with all the athletes. The most important thing is in the fundament is the basic nutrition. So what we have to eat in the morning, at lunch, and at dinner, that we have enough carbohydrates, enough proteins, and also enough fat, and enough water and that kind of fluids. When we go to the next step, we want to see how your what kind of sport you do. For example, when you do baseball or something like that, then it's the sport nutrition a little bit not so necessary. But when you do cycling or triathlon or something like that, then our sport specific sport nutrition really important. You can imagine when you're on the bike for 6 or 7 hours and you eat or don't drink anything, yeah, you have a really big problem. Then you don't finish or you're really fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
And the last step of the pyramid is the supplements. And yeah, normally a lot of athletes just go to eat the supplements. They are thinking that it's a really important thing, but yeah, it's when you're starting with that, it's a big problem that you don't fill up everything what you have to need for your body. And your body needs a lot. And then we can, further on the slides, you can see that. When we go to the next slide, you can see what I want to explain. What are carbohydrates, what are proteins, and what is fat. And if you go to the next slide, you see the benefits of carbohydrates is it gives your body really fast energy. When you go for a sprint, your body normally uses only carbohydrates, and when you go for a long endurance ride, your body uses more fat instead of carbohydrates. But normally when you also always cycle, there's always a combination of burning fat and burning carbohydrates. And when you go faster and faster, and your heart rate is going up, you're going to burn more carbohydrates. Now, your body needs them for first. But the important thing is it's giving you the energy, and the requirement of that is that your body needs at minimum 5 grams a kilogram of body weight. So if your body weight is around 70 kilograms, your body needs a minimum of 350 grams of carbohydrate in your nutrition. And in the last year, I see a lot of athletes coming back from deep coaching, and what I normally see is that the carbohydrate intake is really too less. And yeah, that's a really big, important thing to improve that in the countries of England or in Ireland, I think. And when we go to the next slide, we see the proteins. Now, proteins are really important for the recovery and building up the muscles. So when you do a long endurance ride, there's always some damage in the muscles, and the proteins are helping the muscles for building up again. So that's the main reason of the proteins. And your body needs around one for an endurance athlete between the 1.2 and the 1.8 grams body weight for proteins. So for example, when you are 70 kilograms, you need around 80 till 90 grams of proteins. But in the last researches and studies what's coming by, it's really important to have around 5 or 6 times a day around 20 grams of protein. And what is 20 grams of protein? When you eat, for example, 100 grams of fish or around 80 grams of chicken, then you have already 20 grams of protein. And the rest of the protein, which for example, when you eat 200 or 300 grams of protein, your body don't use that for building up the muscles. So what this means is that the rest of your body can use it. It will be burned, or your body will sell them as fat. So it's really important to have a good balance there. When we go to the next slide, it's you can see the fat. Now, fat is really important for taking care of your body. So when you have, for example, your body fat is around 4 or 5%, yeah, your body has more problems to be healthy, because a lot of what's coming by in the winter is the flu and something like that. Your body has to fight for that. And the next step is a really big energy taking for your body. So it's a good thing to find the balance in nutrition, to have the right amounts of fat, carbohydrates, and also the fat and the proteins. I mean, the requirement is, when, for example, what I told you is we have at least 5 grams a kilogram body weight. We need it, and when you're training more and more, for example, more than 10 or 12 hours in a week, your body needs more carbohydrates, a kilogram body weight. When you're cycling for 20 or 25 hours in a week, your body needs around 10 till 12 grams of carbohydrates. So that's really a lot. It's for around 700 grams of carbohydrate, and that's around 2,800 of calories. Then you have only the carbohydrates. And when you add also the proteins, for example, around 1.5 grams per kilogram, then you have around 100 grams of protein, and when you put them together, you have with the carbohydrates and with the protein around 3,000 of calories. And from that energy intake, you need at least 20% of fat. And fat, you can find it in the good ways and you can find it in the bad ways. And the good ways are the unsaturated fat, and the bad fat is a saturated fat, what you can find in baked potatoes or chips or something like that. And the unsaturated fats, you can find it in nuts, in olive oil or something like that. When we go to the vitamins, this is in the next slide, you can see we have two different kind of vitamins. We have the water solution vitamins, and that's are the vitamin B1, B2, B6 and B12 are the most important, and vitamin C. Normally when you take supplements, your body, what you don't can adapt, you pee them out in your urine, but only vitamin B6, your body can solve that in your body. And when it is really high level and you take a lot of vitamin B6, you can have parasyntase, you can find tingling in your body, and it's going around the whole body, so be aware of taking a lot of vitamin B6. And on the other side you find the fat soluble vitamins, and that are the vitamin A, vitamin A, D, E and K. And the same like in Holland is that vitamin D is a really important vitamin, and normally your body makes it by themselves with sunlight, but in the winter we cannot find enough sunlight here, so we must, or we're going to Spain to find the sun, or we have a good nutrition. And you can find it with a good nutrition when you have 3 or 4 times a week with fat fish. Then you can have enough vitamin D. Otherwise, I think it's important to have some supplements of vitamin D, but be aware that it is a safety one. Instead of when you have to go cycle in a high level and you have to go to the doping, it can always be difficult, and be aware of that kind of stuff. Then we go to the minerals. The important minerals there are is calcium, zinc, iron and magnesium. Now calcium you can find in dairy products like milk, like yogurt, like sometimes it's added to soya milk or something like that. Zinc you can find it in normally in the green vegetables. Iron, we have 2 different kinds of iron in our nutrition. We find them in the meat, that's the good iron, and we have a little bit less iron. It's not the best one, and then we can find it in grains or whole wheat bread or something like that. And magnesium, we can find it in also in green vegetables. When you have cramp or something like that, normally a lot of people say we have to take more magnesium. But the question is magnesium helping to avoid cramp? Normally, I think it's better to look at your drinking habits on the bike. I think that's more helping you to avoid the cramp in doing training or during the races. If you go to the next, you can see it. What you normally can see is a lot of people want to find a good balance in the nutrition. When you want to find a good power to weight ratio, it is an important thing. So what you're eating, it's the calorie in, it's the food beverage, and then you have also on the other side you have the calorie out. So in that calorie out is cycling, going to work, adaptable to the stress or something like that. And when you don't find the balance in the good way or in the bad way, the body weight is going up or your body weight is going down too quickly. And when you find a good balance in that, your body weight will be stable, and then you have a good ratio. But when you have to lose weight, then it's important to find a disbalance in your nutrition or in your energy outtake or in your cycling. So when you have to lose weight, you can two things you can do. One is eat less, and two is to train more or better on a smart way. But the most important thing is find a good balance and structure during the day. When you go to training, try to have the 6 meals a day. And 6 meals, I mean, you have a breakfast, you have a lunch, and you have a dinner, and you have every 3 times you have a snack between, a small snack for like fruit or something like that. When we go to the next slide, a lot of riders have in this time, they have a power meter. And on a power meter you can always see how much calories or joules you are burning. And I want to explain what you're seeing on your SRAM or on your Garmin is your body needs 100% for going faster and faster. But when you move, your body only see 20 to 25% of the power output. For example, when you're doing an easy ride and you ride around 200 watts, your body needs around between the 800 and 1000 watts, but a lot of things is burned like heat. So your body is not the best machine for working there. And the nice thing is 1 watt is 1 joule a second. So then you can calculate how much calories you burn in one training or one race, and that's can up to some riders. What I see in like in Tour de France last year, it goes up to between 5,000 and 6,000 calories that they burn in a race, in an elite race. So, and that you cannot eat on the bike, and that's really difficult to have a good balance for how much you have to eat, and don't find problems with eating. But I will come to that later on. If you go to the next slide, you can see now important is the sport nutrition, what you have to eat on the bike, what are the important things. And what are the important things? It's why are we always thirsty? Yeah. When we have thirsty, then I think we are too late to drink. Then your body used already 2% of your body weight, and then in the one race you never solve that again. So you always are 2 steps behind for improving or find the best time in a special race of riding on the fast what you can. Why is fluid so important? Your body is has around 70 till 80% is fluid. So when you lose 2%, then it's a really big part of your body already. Now we have different kind of drinks. When you go to the supermarket or to the bike store, you can find a lot of brands this time. And there are 3 different kinds of drinks. You have an hypertonic drink, an isotonic drink, and a hypotonic drink. Now, and the difference between that is the osmolality of the drinks. And the isotonic and the hypotonic have the same osmolality of the blood in your body, so your body adapt them really quick. And when you take a hypotonic drink, it has too high osmolality, and then your body can find some problems to adapt the drink. And normally it's an hypotonic drink is an energy drink, and it has around more than 12% of carbohydrates. And the isotonic drink has around 8% of carbohydrates, and the hypotonic drink is around 6%. How much do we need? I think it's important for when you're doing training or in the race. It's also influence on how hot it is in the race, but normally your body can adapt in 1 hour around to 800 till 1000 milliliters in 1 hour. So that's around one big bottle or two small bottles each hour. And that's really difficult to drink that. And the first, what I teach to other riders, also in our team, is try to drink that also in the training. When you don't do it in the training, your body don't think of it in the race. And when you don't do it in the race, in a one-day race, yeah, you can finish it, but when you have a stage race of 6 or 21 days, it still gets difficulter and difficulter, and your body don't recover from that. And what you can see when you're on the bike, and you want to know how much you have to drink, you can do it with a simple measurement. You stand on the weight before you go on training, and afterwards. And the difference between the weight is what you lose on fluids. So when you lose 1 or 2 kilograms, you need to drink more during that training or race. And if you want to find a good balance again in your body, then you must find the difference. For example, when you lose 2 kilograms, you must find 150% more. So then you have to drink that day around 3 liters more. But when you do it in one time, yeah, you have a really stomach problem, so you have to spread it during the day in different times of the day. And when you go to the next slide, you can see with a simply measurement, there are some strips you can find. Can we go to the next slide?
Yep, sorry. Yep.
Perfect. You can find how the color of your urine has to be. Number 1, 2, and 3 are the best. Then you are hydrated. When you go to the 4 till the 8, you are dehydrated. But when you use some supplements like vitamin B or vitamin C, then your urine has a different kind of color. So that's important that you don't take some supplements before. Then you can find when you have to put urine, then you have to drink enough, or you have to drink more during that training or during that race. When we go to the next slide, you see how much carbohydrate your body has stored. You can see that your body has around 400 grams of muscle glycan. That's a big store. When you have tapering off, it can be a little bit bigger. It's also trainable to have more glycogen store in your body. You have also some liver glycan, it's around 100 grams, and you have something in your blood, a little bit. It's around 3 grams. When you're going for a ride and you don't eat, your body used a lot of glycogen in your body. So when you do 2 trainings on a one day, then it's really important to eat and drink a lot during the training, because otherwise your body has no muscle glycogen in the next training, and then you have a problem. Then you cannot can train on a high level. For example, when you do an easy ride in the morning and you do your efforts in the afternoon, then you need also the carbohydrate to go to the high heart rate and go to the high power. When you don't eat or drink only water during the training or during the races, it takes around 4 hours to bunk. So your body need, in the first minutes, your body use normally the muscle glycogen, then they use the more and more the fatty acids. Your blood glucose going down, and at the end, after 4 hours, you bunk, and then you have a problem that you can eat and eat everything what you can find. So that's a really big point of attention that you always try to avoid that, especially when this temperature is going in the winter, it's going cold, your body needs more energy to warm it up, so the wall is going to be closer and closer. So it can be possible that you're going out in a cold day and for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and then when you don't eat, you can also find the wall, or you can bunk, because your body really need it warmed up, and it costs a lot of energy. When we go to the next slide, you can see the related research. You can find that your body normally we're recommended to only have the drinks as glucose, but in the last I think 5 or 6 years, there are still more brands that add some fructose to the drink, or during the bars or during gels. And why they do it is important, because your body has 2 different kinds of proteins that adapt to the carbohydrates. And you can find the GLUT5, it's a different one than the SGLT1. So you can adapt more carbohydrates in 1 hour. And that's important, because your body cannot adapt all the food what you eat in 1 hour. So when you train that in the training, eat and drink more, your body can adapt more carbohydrates. So that's important when you do an Ironman, for example, for around 10 or 13 hours. And then you have to eat and drink a lot, because you cannot carry all the nutrition with you. And when you don't have all the nutrition with you, you have to find some spots between. And that's why it's important to have in the training, you also can train your body to adapt more carbohydrates. And in the next slide, you can see the guidelines of the latest ones. Is when you do a ride for 45 minutes, it's not necessary to have some carbohydrates. But when you do a ride between 1 and 2 hours, you can up to around 30 grams of carbohydrates. And then the important source is glucose. When you do a longer ride between 2 and 3 hours, you can up to the 60 grams of carbohydrates. And when you go for a long ride for 3 hours or more, or 4 or 5 hours, then it's important to have every hour around 90 grams of carbohydrates. But then it's important to have a combination between glucose and fructose. And for example, when you drink 1 bottle an hour, you have around 20 to 40 grams of carbohydrate. So then you have to eat every hour for around 50 grams. And when you eat, for example, 1 slice of bread, it has only 50 grams of carbohydrates. So you have to eat in 1 hour, really a lot. And normally when you have a bar, it's between 20 to 40 grams of carbohydrate. And if you have in gel, it's also around 20 to 40 grams of carbohydrates. But I think the gels you only have to use in really difficult circumstances. I don't recommend it to train it a lot doing your training rides, because it is really fast carbohydrate. So I think it's better to have the slow ones, the slow carbohydrates during the long rides. But when you have a new flavor, for example, what you have to try in the race, try it first in a training, if you like it, or if you like it not, or if you don't like it. Recovery. Now, if we have doing a ride and training ride for endurance ride for 4 hours, I think then it's also important to have some recovery. And recovery, what you can do is you can buy a recovery drink, and then it's important that they have carbohydrate and protein, around 60 grams of carbohydrate and 20 grams of protein in 3:1 ratio. But then it's important you have already finished, you add your body with protein, and then your body can adapt them in the body. Go then after when you take the recovery drink, go to the shower and cleaning your bike, that kind of stuff, and try to have the next meal with protein around 2 hours later. Then the body has adapted proteins already. But between recovery drink and your next lunch or dinner, you can eat some carbohydrate to refuel the glycogen stores in your body. That's the first spot of timing of recovery is the important thing. For example, the giant Shimano riders are now back in Spain. When they normally start with training around 10 o'clock. When they do a 6-hour ride, they finish around 16:30. Then they have the recovery drink, and 1 to 2 hours later they have the normal lunch. And between the recovery drink and the lunch, they eat some slices of bread with some jam or something like apple butter or something like that. And then they have finished the lunch around 6 o'clock. And then around 8 or 9 o'clock they have the dinner. Between the lunch and the dinner they also take some carbohydrates in dried fruit or normal fruit, and they take it every half hour, 1 or 2 slices. When it's the winter time in Holland or in England, I think it's important to have some probiotic. Probiotic is to have healthy ingestions, and I think there when you have a lot of races and your body is suffered a lot, I think that's the first step for be aware of sickness. That's why normally in long races or hard training days or during the winter, I recommend to have some probiotic every day. Then we go to the last part, the red part of the pyramid. It's the supplements. Like Asterix and Obelix always say, with one drink, I'm very strong and very healthy. But there's not one supplement that helps you really a lot. I think a lot of people know what creatine can do in your body, but I think when you are an endurance rider, it's not benefits to use it. The last thing is Rachel tells right beetroot. And beetroot is possible. It's possible that it can help you to have a little bit higher VO2 max, but the question is that it's the same with high-level riders. There's no recommendation of to use beetroot or something like that, and normally they say around beat it that for around 16 days before to build-up period. And then you have to use one beat it shot a day. But the big question is, helps it? There are studies tell that it's helping, but a lot of studies also tell it's not helping. Another supplement that maybe can help is beta-alanine. It's helping your body to adapt more lactic acid, and it helps around efforts between 1 and 7 minutes. So when you have a really hilly stage or really crit with really small efforts in it, it can be possible to help. But then it's also important to find a good balance in there, and that you have used the wrong way, that you build it up in the period from between the 12 or 10 weeks. Then it's on the stop level, and then it can a little bit help you. But important from the supplement is, the sentence what I write down is, there's no perfect supplementation that will bring you to the top of the world. Training, sleeping and eating are the most important factors to improve yourself and believe in yourself. That's a really important thing. That's all I want to tell you.
There we go for now. We've been getting plenty of questions coming in thick and fast. First of all, thank you very much, Rob. I think a lot of that might be new to a lot of people. Some of it might be stuff they already know, but just need reminded. It's very interesting what you say about, what you do in training is what you do in racing, and that's something we have been preaching here at Dig Deep Coaching, both from a performance point of view, from a cycling point of view, but again, I know from experience and being with local riders and saying what they do, and trying to make them understand that what you do in training is the habits that you're going to have in a race. And again, it's very interesting to see that a lot of, I find, amateur riders will certainly eat a lot less in training, drink a lot less in training. A lot of times that's maybe because they think to lose weight or to, to help adapt or something like this. And the reality is a lot of times their training becomes substandard. Their immune system is reduced. They're not recovering as good. You can't perform the training blocks back to back. And and I think you're exactly right regarding, looking at the basics of food instead of people always looking some special supplement that potentially can help their adoption or whatever it may be. So, so thank you very much. So I'm gonna start going through some questions. Okay, so so we've got one here coming in, and it's what pre-race and breakfast foods are best? What would you recommend? Or maybe what does, for example, what does the Giant Shimano team, the morning of a race, maybe a one-day race, what would you recommend, or what are you giving them to eat?
I think there's no difference between what they normally do doing in training and doing the races, because your body knows what your normal habits are doing the training right, and when you change your nutrition. For example, when you normally eat some bread for breakfast breakfast before training, and you go for a race, you're going to eat some pasta or you're going to eat some muesli with dairy products. You don't know how your body responds on that. So I think it's important to have the same amount of what your normal habits are in your breakfast or your lunch, that you also use that in the races. Before.
Yeah, I think another view that I see that sometimes is that it can be nerves, it can be anticipation of a race, especially early season when they're starting the season, that they consume a lot of calories in the morning. These are calories that their gut isn't used to absorbing. It's not calories that they're used to adapting. And we find a lot of people, they maybe what they so-called is think they cramp up during the race, or they have stomach cramps, and sometimes they think it's nerves. And whenever you get down to looking at the information, it's really it's actually they maybe ate considerable amount of food too much. They're panicking to an extent. So something like that again is just trying to again making the same muesli as what you do. I would normally myself would have eaten muesli. Sometimes I'd have made my own muesli, with dried fruit and nuts and whatnot, with milk, and sometimes I used to use soya and whatnot. But so I think you're right. So what you can do. So okay, I've got somebody else here. Somebody is working in their job. They're working up to 70 hours a week, and they try to train 4 to 5 times a week, and they find it difficult to eat. So any advice would be great, and do I need supplements is another question. So first question is, how can I eat properly whenever I'm working so much, and do I need supplements if I'm not able to eat properly? So what would your advice to be for somebody working?
My first advice is to look down to your own nutrition, write it down for a few days, and then you see what your habits are. And try then to find the perfect solution how you can plan your nutrition, and try to have a breakfast and a lunch and have a dinner and work a lot, because that you do around 70 hours a week. But when you don't time your nutrition, then you lose one meal, and then you lose a lot of calories, and then it's not for one day it's not a problem. But when you do it for 3 or 2, 3 or 4 or 5 days, then you have a really big problem, because then your body don't adapt them, and your body don't recover anymore. And I really think supplements, you don't need it when you have a good balanced nutrition.
Yeah, I think whenever you're working so much like that, and your life can be so hectic and fast, sometimes I know it's difficult, but to organize yourself a little better, to organize, your food, your snacks, your how do you say, your lunch boxes and whatnot, and eating on the move, good choices, and having them good choices close to you instead of getting hungry. And then maybe at work there's a machine with Mars bars, or a machine with you don't want to have that you don't want to have that temptation. So okay,
But
so some.
But also when you have bad nutrition, you have not enough good concentration for your work. So I think when you work really hard, also when sitting out in the office, it's really important to have the 6 times a day, because then your brain is also working really good, and is also really high level. So that's the same like a top sport, an athlete, trying to find the balance in that.
Okay, great advice. Thank you. What's the best probiotic brand maybe that you would use? Is there a particular brand? Maybe it's different in Europe to what we get in the UK or Ireland, but is there anything particular probiotic that you would recommend? Or
I don't know if you have Yakult.
Yeah, we have Yakult.
Yeah, when you do 2 times a day 1 Yakult, then you have enough bacteria. You need around 5 million of bacteria. So that's the one. That's the important thing, that you find a supplement or a drink that has around 5 million of bacteria.
Yeah.
And which brand? Yeah, it's different. Yeah, I think it's really difficult. The difference between in Holland and in Ireland or in England.
Yeah. And also the same person has asked about colostrum. What do you think of colostrum? Do you know this?
Yeah.
Colostrum? Yeah.
I'm curious if the questionnaire is drink it already.
Yeah.
The question is, helps it? Now,
yeah,
the studies don't tell that it's helping. And I'm really looking to the studies, and there are always studies that tell us that it's helping. But the question is then how many people helped with the study? Is it around 1 or 2 or maybe 10? Then you can doubt if it's the right thing or it's not the right thing.
I myself used colostrum many years ago for maybe a 6-month period and whatnot. And to be honest, I can't say I've seen much benefits. I think the expense of it is would put a lot of people off. I think your money could be better spent looking at your nutrition, your lunch, your evening, what you're eating on the bike. Maybe brings as much performance gains. Again, it's it's looking at a supplement. But colostrum, maybe it works for some people, maybe it doesn't. But it's another. It's just
there's always the question. Every person is different.
Yeah, every person. I don't think it's going to do you any harm, but the expense of it might hurt your purse, hurt your wallet, as they say. Okay, and good question. So how important is pre and post-ride nutrition if you mainly race 10 to 25 mile time trials? So in the UK here, Rob, a lot of our races and a lot of our athletes are focused on time trials. So the distance of maybe 16, 15 kilometers to 40 kilometers. So, and how important is pre and post ride nutrition for these sort of very threshold effort races?
I think it's important that you have your post meal. It's especially around 3 hours before the race started. Then the body adapt the most of the food, so then it's not in your stomach anymore. And I think that's really important. But it's also important what you did the days before. And that's the main part that a lot of riders forget. They do it perfect during the race day, but in the week before the race, they don't drink enough. They have not enough carbohydrates. They don't have enough proteins. And they always have questions about why I don't recover. It's not the one day in the week that must be perfect. The whole week has to be perfect. And post race, it's important to recover again and go back to a high level of training again. So when you have the race on Sunday and you have your efforts again on Tuesday, I think then it's really important to have enough carbohydrates post-race meals, so that your body can adapt enough of build up the glycogen stores in your body again for the efforts next time.
Yeah, and just on that, it relates to another question that was sent in just about caffeine supplementation. The benefits of caffeine, particularly maybe in an event like a 10 or 25 mile time trial. Again,
I think it can help. And, my advice is to have no coffee or no Coca-Cola or something like that in the 3 days before the race, and 1 hour before the start of the race you have to take the supplements. And my advice is to have around 2 till 3 milligrams of body weight, a kilogram body weight. So when you have the weight around 70 kilograms, so you need to run 140 till 210 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah.
And then in 1 hour the caffeine goes in your blood, and within 1 hour it's on the high level, and then you have the most benefits on it.
Yeah.
And the funny part of it is that a lot of riders normally use in the final of a grid or in the classic one, and they are jumping in the shower.
Yeah, that's. I was just about to say that I see a lot of people supplementing caffeine as they are waiting on the start line, or as they're about to take off for their time trial, and by this stage it's too late. For me, I've always to work on the assumption of 1 hour 45 minutes before the start, depending on the length of the event and whatnot. And again, I think we're going back to the same topic that you have to have your body used to it. It's not a case of all of a sudden taking a caffeine drink or a caffeine gel or something like this for the first time in your first 10 mile time trial and not having used it maybe once before, twice before. Of course, you can have the gastro problems and stuff like that. But I think, again, yes, as Rob said, the lowering your use of it in the 3 days before it has as big effects as maybe lowering the use of it for 2 weeks. I think you can, is that right, Rob? You can get good effects of stopping caffeine for 3 days before it and then having a large dose before it. Then,
Yeah, that's the guidelines are no caffeine drinks 3 days before. Then you have the most benefits of it.
Yeah.
And when you have a long, for example, when you have a long classic one or cyclo for 6 or 7 hours, you can take it 1 hour before, and halfway in the race you can also take some caffeine for building up again.
Yeah. Just another question on what's your views on low carb and high fat diets? Sometimes recommended for long distance events, and so
I think when you are not a pro rider, I think it has no sense. You can put more effort in your training and adapt the carbohydrates in your training and your races. You have much more benefits of it than you have a low carb or a high fat diet or a high protein diet. It has no sense for a normal recreation cyclo rider or time trial rider.
Yeah. Okay. So what does race day nutrition differ from? How does your rest day nutrition differ from your training or race day nutrition? So what would you change for your resting days where you're not training to your days that you are training or racing?
I think a lot of riders always think that on rest day that they don't have to eat anymore, but the rest day is not only for recovery and for building up everything again. So I think it's important that you have a good balanced nutrition, And for example, when you are you have a hard training day or a race day, you eat, for example, around 3,000 to 4,000 calories, and then you have on the rest day, I think it's good to have around 2,500 calories, maybe 2,750. But it can also be possible that you have around 3,000 calories also on the rest day, because a lot of riders find it difficult to find a balance, and they have the whole time they have hunger, and then you can better find the good balance in the normal and good nutrition. Then you can find the solution to all the Snickers and all the Marses.
Yeah, I think when we say rest day, from a coach's perspective, and when we're looking at people developing, rest day is to repair your body, is to help your body adapt for the next training phase, and a lot of times it's not productive to reduce your calories by 50% or 70% or something. Can again lead to a low immune system, and also help your muscles to adapt. We're going to try and get through just one or two more. One is about about your immune system. Somebody here has just had an operation on his tonsils, and wants to know what is the best foods he can start eating, and maybe supplements he can start taking to help get his body boost his immune system again, before he starts his preparation for an Ironman later on in the year. So what would your advice be to get his immune system back going and get his body back and strong after I think when you have an operation, you obviously have a lot of the anesthetic can affect the body quite a bit. And so is there anything you recommend to boost the immune system again?
Yeah, I'm thinking of it. I think it's a really difficult question. I think it's really different between all the riders and all the persons that have the operation. I think it's important to have a good nutrition before that you get operation, because when you have not a good nutrition before the operation, your body is it's suffering a little bit, and then the recovery period is also longer. And the rest, I think we have not enough time to explain that.
Yeah, it might be, it's a long one. I think probably like anything, proper nutrition, proper whole food nutrition,
and fruit and vegetables are really important.
The minerals
the question is, can you adapt all of the vegetables? Because some vegetables like onions can be really problems give to your body. So it's always trial and error and find a good balance in that.
Yeah. Well, we wish you good luck in your recovery from that. So okay, we're gonna have just one more. How do you work out your ideal racing and body fat levels? That's a very difficult one. I think I know what your answer is, but so how would you find out your ideal racing and body fat levels?
Yeah, it's the first step is measure your how your body now is, and I think it's not necessary to go below the 8 or 7% of body fat. Then your immune system is going down, and then you're much sooner you're going to be sick. So the first time is find a good nutritionist or somebody else. You can measure your body fat, and then you can calculate how much fat or how much body weight you can lose. But do it in a good way, and don't lose, for example, 3 kilograms in 1 week, because then you lose a lot of muscles, and then you don't lose a lot of body fat. My recommendation is to have around 250 calories less every day, or train 250 calories more in 1 day, and then you lose around 1 kilogram in 1 month, and that's a normal basic good losing of your body fat or body weight.
Yeah, and allows you to also make your training constructive, and you're not it doesn't hinder your training, the losing of the weight, so you're still making the training productive, and you're also reducing your body fat, not weight, your body fat as we're looking at. So okay, so listen, I think we've got through quite a bit. Sorry I wasn't able to get through everybody's questions, but I do hope you all got something from this evening. I'd just like to say thank you to Rob for taking time to speak to us here this evening. And there's a lot of everybody's coming in here saying thank you very much to you, Rob, so that they really enjoyed it. So listen, thank you very much, everybody. We're obviously with Dig Deep Coaching. Rob works with Dig Deep Coaching and does nutritional consultations at many different levels. So he's a very popular man at the minute with nutrition. So if anybody would like a nutrition consultation and learn tips from the man himself, please email into info@digdeepcoaching.com. As you know, Dig Deep Coaching is a coaching company that caters for every level of athlete, from cycling to triathlon, running, swimming, cyclocross, mountain bike, with many different levels of packages. We also do coaching for teams, clubs. So if there's anything anybody else would like to know more about our services or any other questions, please email into info@digdeepcoaching.com and we'll do our best to get back to you. So again, thank you very much, Rob, for speaking to us this evening, and thank you very much, everybody, for attending. So, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next one. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.